Change is inevitable. How we navigate it is a choice. Hey, I'm Pastor Matt here with your Missionary Pathway Mission Insight. And I think this insight is really important in the season in which we live because many of us have experienced a ton of change. Whether you're talking about the changes that we've seen in technology over the years, whether you're talking about the changes that were brought with a worldwide pandemic, or the changes that we see happening in culture because of all those things. Change is inevitable, and I think in this generation, we are more than aware of that reality. But the question is, how do we navigate change? For some, change creates extreme anxiety. For others, change is something we wish or maybe even fundamentally think we can control. And how we choose to navigate change, well, that can change everything. See, change is inevitable. And when we realize it's an inevitable, we can make a choice of how we're going to navigate that change. I think change can be a positive thing, and change can also be a hard thing. And how we choose to navigate it can make all the difference. So as we're navigating change, what are some things that we should be considering? Number one, make room to celebrate and mourn. I think the reality is change brings with it things that we can celebrate. A season in life that had great components to it. Maybe a season that brought us to the place we are today. And there are a lot of things we can probably celebrate in the midst of change from the season before. But then change always brings with it at least a little bit of a sense of loss. And so there are usually some things that we have to mourn as we're moving into new seasons. And so as you step into a season of change, or as you're noticing a lot of change around you, create space to celebrate and to mourn, because that can be a healthy thing, and it can really help you navigate and step into whatever new season is coming. Next, as you're walking through change, identify the obstacles and the opportunities. I think change brings with it challenges. That's a natural thing. And there's some obstacles that are in front of you. So take time to navigate and understand what those obstacles are, but also realize that sometimes your obstacles are your greatest opportunities. And so as you're navigating change, identify what the obstacles are, but then look at what some of the opportunities could be. And sometimes just being purely aware of those things can make a radical difference. So as you change, look into that. Next, be willing to learn and experiment. This is something you hear from me a lot, but the reality is we live in a constantly changing world. A world that's changing, it feels like, more rapidly than maybe it ever has before. And so the question becomes, as we're living in this ever-changing world, how can we create a habit of learning and a habit of experimenting? One of the ways to navigate change is to just be a constant learner. Be somebody who's willing to learn and adjust. You know, learning doesn't have to be locked into a specific age or season of life. It's something that you can do throughout your whole life. And when you're talking about stepping out in mission or navigating change, learning is an important aspect. And then also experimenting. And experimenting is just some language to use to say, hey, we're gonna try some things. And maybe the thing we're gonna try is gonna work out well. Maybe it's not. Mission Insights for me was a big experiment. But as you do something, as you step out and try things, you'll learn from them and you'll grow from them. And being willing to learn and experiment is a huge way to navigate change. And then finally, anchor yourself in the unchanging things. See, one of the challenges of change is that sometimes things change and they're the things that we thought were more permanent than they actually are. But see, as Christians, we have a great hope. We have an unchanging thing, which is Jesus and the gospel. Remember in the Gospels when Jesus says, "My words will never go away." Jesus' word is firm. God's promises are firm, and those are never going to change. And so when you anchor yourself into Christ and into the gospel, what you're going to find is even if your church changes ministry leaders, worship styles, even if the culture is completely and totally upended, what we have learned from history, the history of Scripture and human history, is that Jesus isn't going anywhere. The gospel isn't going anywhere. Heaven and earth will change, but Jesus will never change. And so anchor your life into Him. And when you're navigating change, you'll always know that you're securely anchored into something that will truly never change. And that's the gospel. Hey, if you're navigating change or you're trying to figure out what a new season of ministry would look like, I just want to encourage you in this, but then also check out our missionary pathway resources or some of the other training resources we have. It's a great way that you can navigate change by stepping into what disciple making could look like in the 21st century. And if we can help you do that, we would love to help you do that. So check out that resource. And of course, if this video was a blessing to you, click like and subscribe and share it out with somebody else, because you never know how the things that impact you could make an impact on somebody else.